T16000 FCS, or Flight Control System. That is the throttle and the new stick that's been redesigned since my last T16000M video, which I did as part of my budget joystick review. Now, caveat here, I've only had about 8-10 hours worth of game time, most of that being in Elite Dangerous, but I also tried it with DCS as well as Microsoft Flight Simulator X. So I haven't put it quite through the normal 50 to 60 hour paces through about a half dozen games or so to really get a true feel for everything. But I did a couple of flight sims and a space sim, and so I feel comfortable enough releasing this review as I see things right now. The price for this setup together is $130. You can buy each component separate. If you have an existing T16000M stick, you can simply buy the throttle, I believe, for $70. This goes for around $45, $50 on Amazon. Now, I'll start out with the T16000M. The stick has been redesigned a little bit with a little bit better ergonomics here than I remember. The trigger and the buttons still are probably its weakest point, but these do seem to be easier to get to than on the original T16000M. I don't know if they shortened this head just a little bit, redesigned it. And the buttons are nicely textured now, so they're easier to see if you're wearing a VR headset, of course a POV hat. The slider, the throttle slider, if you're using this independently, is a little bit improved from what I found. And then the buttons on top here have this kind of little braille button here, so that if you're feeling around with a VR headset on, you can kind of feel where those buttons are and over here. It also retains the fact that it is ambidextrous. You can loosen up this screw here, turn this plate around essentially, and then it does come with an additional thumb rest to put over here. You just take this off, put on its companion piece over here, and the version of this for over there, and then it would become a left-handed stick. It is just as accurate and precise as the original T16000M, and frankly, if you want to know what my go-to best buy for the money in terms of a joystick is, it's the T16000M, either the original or the new updated version of it. Now, interestingly enough, it also has a switch down here that's left-handed or right-handed, so keep that in mind. It's actually set to left-handed right now, so if you do switch it from one side to the other. The other problem that I have is these buttons, the fact that they're ambidextrous and on both sides. Generally speaking, one side of it is inconvenient to use at any given time. In Elite Dangerous, I tend to put things like landing gear, and in flight sims, things like flaps and stuff like that on these buttons that you can take off. They're non-combat critical buttons, basically. So that's the updated T16000M. Next up is the throttle component. Now, like the CH throttle, it is a linear design, which I'm sure some people looking to replace or upgrade from, or been looking at the X52, which has more of the rotary throttle design, they're not going to be satisfied with the linear design. Those looking for a cheaper standalone throttle to go with another joystick or something like that, or maybe an existing T16000M, I think it is definitely worth a look. Now, those of you who are X45 fans and X36 fans, and been looking for a rocker yaw or a rocker rudder pedal, this design has it. It's the first joystick or throttle with a rocker design for the yaw or for rudder pedals since the X45, which is, what, 15 years ago or so now? So if you're looking to replace an X36 or an X45 and you're comfortable with this, this should probably be your go-to HOTAS. Now, it doesn't have quite as many buttons. It does have a rotary dial here that you can use. 2 buttons here at the pinky, basically pinky and ring finger. It's kind of inconveniently placed. I found that to be a little bit tight. Now, this here is an analog mini stick, much like the CH Pro throttle, only the CH Pro throttle, it's over here at the thumb. It's a little bit awkward to get used to, this little disc thing here, but it does work, and once you get used to it, you could use your forefinger. Ordinarily, I use that for targeting, and if you're used to it or not, kind of gets a little bit tiring, but it does work for controlling strafing thrusters just about as well as the mini stick on the CH Pro throttle. The only thing I really don't care for is this little button right here in the middle that kind of your middle finger is supposed to activate. It's kind of awkward. I use it for tabbing up and down menus, but I don't know. I don't think that that's a great placement. It's kind of awkward to use in the heat and middle of combat. But maybe that's just me and a personal thing. Over here, you have another button down here. I do find that that's a bit of a reach for me. But you have a castle hat switch here that's 4-way. You have another 4-way, actually 8-way hat here. Although, frankly, it's going to be hard to use an 8-way. And then another 8-way hat here. Again, trying to use this for anything more than I think a 4-way hat is going to be tricky. Yeah, else I think you're going to mistap it quite a bit. Same thing with this. But it has 3 hat switches. The throttle is smooth, and as far as weight and stuff goes, even on a slick surface, it holds grip pretty darn well. In fact, I think even better than my CH Pro throttle. Now, one other thing I should point out is if you don't want to use a rocker switch for rudder pedal, the T16000 does also feature twist yaw. So if you prefer twist yaw, you can do it that way. And then finally, now you have to buy this as a separate component, and I haven't done a full review, so here it is. But these are the T-Flight rudder pedals. Now, interestingly enough, I've disconnected it from the adapter that you can plug in standalone. So if you're using these with the Warthog or something like that. And the new T-Flight X HOTAS version 4 for the PlayStation 4 has this port, this like RJ45 port on it here. RJ12, whatever. And this would plug into there. And then this becomes a complete HOTAS setup with stick, rudder, and pedals. As I'm doing this upstairs, and you just heard my trusty co-pilot bark at me because he wants to play instead of me doing video reviews. Now, these rudder pedals, they're a little bit close together. Some people may not like that. I find them to be acceptable. And overall, the action and motion on these are absolutely smooth. Butterly smooth. Going back to the CH rudder pedals, you can see how rough the roller system is compared to this. Now, the downside that I found compared to the CH pedals is that the throw, the amount of distance of travel, is significantly less than that on the CH pedals. Most flight games, I found that really doesn't equate to too much of a problem. But overall, for $130, I definitely recommend this as your go-to HOTAS system. Now, the biggest problem that I foresee right now with the T16000 is it just came out. Now, Thrustmaster has had a reputation of producing generally good stuff. That's not to say that people won't occasionally get a lemon or something like that, but they stand behind their products, couple-year warranty. Their target software is second only to CH Control Manager. Interestingly enough, it was originally designed by the same man, Bob Church. But at any rate, if you're looking at an entry-level HOTAS that won't necessarily break the bank and has all of the features for space or flight games, this should be your go-to option. I would recommend this for $5, $10 more over the SATEC basic X52 any day of the week, because with an X52, just the base model, you're still going to be spending another $10 or $15 on magnets and then having to take it apart and void warranties in order to do a magnet mod, maybe a tension mod, a couple of those things to make it a decent stick. And this is the best joystick dollar for dollar out of the box. So I've been pleasantly impressed with what I've seen thus far. And granted, I do use it with the rudder pedals. That is an additional $90. So it's basically, $130 to get started if you don't want the rudder pedals. If you do want the rudder pedals because you do more flight sims or something like that, or you just want them to have them, it's going to be about $220. So that kind of puts it up there into the mid-range category, competing with the X56. And I believe that this is a completely far superior product to either of SATEC / now Logitech's offerings in terms of the X52 or the X56. So if you're looking for a new HOTAS on the budget end of the spectrum this holiday season, I think this is going to be my go-to recommendation. Next week, I will be doing a 2016 joystick and HOTAS buyer's guide for holiday shopping season. Hint, hint, spoiler alert, this is going to be my go-to recommendation for the entry-level budget crowd, and for people who are wanting to spend more money. I'm still going to be recommending my CH gear, because despite having used the rudder pedals with the Warthog and now the T16000M, I do like this setup. I really, really do like this setup. And if I didn't already own my CH gear, this would be what I would be using, to be frankly honest with you. I like the Warthog for Falcon BMS. I like the Warthog for DCS. If I'm playing those two games, I plug it in. But for every other flight game that I'm using, I'm typically using CH gear, either with the Flight Sim yoke, which I do also use in Elite Dangerous to drive the Rover, which is something that I have not done. I'm in the middle of a journey out to Sag A at the moment in Elite Dangerous, so I haven't gotten an opportunity to try to use this joystick with driving the SRV. So maybe my opinion would differ, but frankly I would prefer to drive the SRV with a gamepad or a Flight Sim yoke or a steering wheel or something like that anyway, but that's just my personal opinion. Well, if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section below. I may end up keeping this HOTAS as a backup for my CH gear. Now, I've had my CH gear for 2.5 years now. I've gotten well over 22,000 hours, probably closer to 2,500 hours worth of use on them. And they're starting to show a little bit of signs of wear and tear. I've recently actually had to go in and recalibrate everything, but I think that had to do more with the Windows 10 anniversary update. And for some reason with CH stuff, this tends to happen. It took 4 or 5 calibrations before it seemed like it settled in and accepted where things are, and I don't get any drift or anything anymore. And I've had to go in and I think add a little bit of a dead zone to the rudder pedals. That being said, I can always go get another potentiometer for the rudder pedals for like $8-10. So those are actually repairable. So, you know, there is something to be said about that. And I will go into that more in depth in my 2016 Buyer's Guide video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, as I have a couple of other joysticks to get to, hopefully before the end of the year, that I will be including in my Buyer's Guide, including the VKB Gladiator, which is their $100 entry-level joystick, and the X56 as well. So stay tuned for that, and until next time, see you later. Hello YouTube! Today I'm taking a look at the T16000 FCS, or Flight Control System. That is the throttle and the new stick that's been redesigned since my last T16000M video, which I did as part of my budget joystick review. Now, caveat here, I've only had about 8-10 hours worth of game time, most of that being in Elite Dangerous, but I also tried it with DCS as well as Microsoft Flight Simulator X. So I haven't put it quite through the normal 50 to 60 hour paces through about a half dozen games or so to really get a true feel for everything. But I did a couple of flight sims and a space sim, and so I feel comfortable enough releasing this review as I see things right now. The price for this setup together is $130. You can buy each component separate. If you have an existing T16000M stick, you can simply buy the throttle, I believe, for $70. This goes for around $45-50 on Amazon. Now, I'll start out with the T16000M. The stick has been redesigned a little bit with a little bit better ergonomics here than I remember. The trigger and the buttons